Hello, welcome back to this session. In this session, we are going to look at functions and how they operate. A function is a small program code whenever needed. If you have some programming background, functions are small programs written and called upon whenever needed. For example, we may write a small program whose work is to add up figures. Whenever we need to carry out some math, we shall call that function to do the task. In Oracle, we have inbuilt functions. These functions are there to help us in performing a lot of tasks with our data. For instance, I may need some data to be in uppercase. I may need to know the total salary spent on all employees. I may need to know the average mark for students. I may need to know the highest or lowest salary. With all this, we use functions. And in Oracle, we have two types of functions. We have the single row functions and the group functions. In this section, we are going to look at single row functions. Single row functions work on a single row of data. For instance, when you look at this query, it is the query we've been working with. It returns the first name, last name, and salary from employees table. However, when we are dealing with the single row functions, they will only operate on a single row of data. They won't work on multiple rows. It is only a single row that is worked on at a time. With the group functions, as we shall be looking at them, to get an output, they'll need to work with multiple rows. For example, if I need to get the total salary spent on employees, I need to add up all the salaries spent on all employees. So we shall add up this and this and this and all the rows. Those are group functions. But for single row functions, they operate only on a single row of data. For example, if I need to change the first name to be in uppercase, Oracle will work only on a single row at a time. We have a number of functions in Oracle. We have the character function that work with letters or characters. For example, we need to convert all letters in uppercase. We need to convert emails in lowercase. And we have the number functions. They deal with numbers. We have functions that deal with null values, the NVL and NVL2. We also have the date functions that deal with dates. Let's see how they operate. We are going to begin with the character function. For this, they deal with letters or string characters. We are going to look at a number of them. We are going to see those that help us in converting letter casing. We are going to begin with the upper, lower, and INITCAP. Upper is a function we use when we need to convert character strings to uppercase. The lower is used to convert character strings to lowercase, and then the INITCAP to the sentence case. Sentence case, it means every first letter in the word will be converted to capital letters. Let's see this in action. We have this query. So we are selecting the first name, last name, and email from employees. When you run this, you can see that the first name and last name start with the capital letter. However, the emails are in uppercase. We may need to convert the last name in uppercase and then the emails in lowercase. To do that, we're going to use functions, the upper and lower. Come here, where we have the column we want to convert. The last name, we need it in uppercase. We just write the function and wrap this in a bracket. So this one is the function upper, and this one is called the parameter. The last name is the parameter. Whatever we put inside is called the parameter or argument. Some functions take one parameter, like the upper. You can see that we have only one parameter, which is the last name. Others will take more than one, like 2 or 3, as we shall be looking at them. So we need the first name to be in uppercase. We need the email to be in lowercase. Lower is the function for the lowercase. So when you run this, we can see that the last name is now in uppercase, but email is in lowercase. This is exactly what we need. We want the last name to be in uppercase and the email to be in lowercase. So this is how we use the upper and lower functions. They are used whenever we need to convert something to upper, and the lower is used to convert the character strings to lowercase. We also have another one that deals with letter casing. It is called the INITCAP. The INITCAP converts the character string to sentence case. Let us try it. We have a column called job ID in the employees table. This one keeps every job ID for every employee. When you run this, you can see that they are in uppercase. But what if I don't want this to be in uppercase? I only need the first characters to be in uppercase. I will use the INITCAP to do that. So we need to convert the job ID into sentence casing. So let us modify the previous query, and we use the INITCAP function. INITCAP. So this one will give us the current job IDs without any function, and this one will give us the new ones with the initial letters in uppercase. When you run, you can see the difference. We can see that previously it was like this, SC account, but now only the first characters are converted to uppercase. That is the INITCAP. It just converts every first letter in a character string to uppercase. Next, we have another function called SUBSTR. It only returns a portion of character string from a given position, and it will return the number of characters specified. For instance, we may say that in the first name, we only need to return characters from the second position, and from the second position, we need 7 characters, or we need 4 characters. For example, in the name Jennifer, only E and only 4 characters will be returned. In the name Shanta, only an H from position 2 and only 4 characters will be returned. So we shall have a hunt returned. Let's see this in action. This is before the SUBSTR function has been applied. Now we are applying a function called SUBSTR to the first name. However, this function SUBSTR, it takes 3 parameters. It doesn't take 1 parameter like the previous one, like upper, lower, and INITCAP. You specify the character string we want to work on, which is the first name. Now we need to begin from the second position. To begin from the second position, we put a comma after the first parameter. Then we specify that we need 2. 2 meaning this is the position I need to start from. And from the second position, I need only 4 characters. So what will happen with this, we are going to begin from the second position of the first name, and only 4 characters will be returned beginning from the second position. When we run, we can see that we had the full name before, and then we are beginning from the second position, and we are counting 4 characters to be returned. So from the second position, only 4 will be returned. So in the name William, only an I, double L, and I will be returned because it is from the second position, and we are counting 4 characters. The third parameter in SUBSTR function is optional. We may not specify the number of characters, but the position has to be there. Once we eliminate this, the entire name or the entire character string will be returned beginning from position 2. So when you run this, we can see that we are beginning from the second position, but since we didn't specify the number of characters we want, the entire name will be returned. From position 2, the remaining characters will be returned. So that is how SUBSTR works. It returns a portion of character string from a specified position and number of characters specified. Next, we have the LPAD and RPAD. What these two do, they fill the remaining space in a character string either to the left or right, depending on the specified number of characters. Confused, right? Don't worry. Let's say an example. The employee's salary to be in a report, it has to be 10 characters long. However, what will happen to those employees whose salary doesn't make up to 10 characters? For instance, if I'm earning 7,000, 7,000 only has 4 digits. Yet the salary on a report has to be 10 digits. So what will happen? We shall fill the remaining space, the 6 characters remaining, with something. Maybe we shall fill it with zeros, or we shall fill it with some special characters like star or hashes to fill that remaining space of 6 characters, so that the entire salary has 10 characters. Let's see this in action. We have this query. We need to have the first name, the last name, and the salary. However, we need salary to be 10 characters long, and if employee who doesn't make up 10 characters will be filled with special characters. For that, we're going to use the RPAD function to fill the remaining spaces with a hash or a star. Let's do that. We're going to say RPAD, and then we specify the salary. The RPAD, like the substring, it takes 3 arguments or parameters. We are going to specify the salary, string we want to work on, and then the number of characters. We need salary to be 10 characters. Any salary has to be 10 characters. Then we shall specify if any salary amount doesn't make up to 10 characters, please fill in the remaining space with a star. And we close the brackets. So what this does, it will just look at the salary, and the salary has to be 10 digits long. In case it doesn't make up 10 digits, fill the remaining spaces to the right with a star. We are putting a star in a single quote because it is a character string. It's not a number. So when you run this, we can see that the previous salary, it was Stephen King is earning 24,000, which makes up to 5 characters. But because we say that every salary has to be 10 characters long, we can see that the remaining spaces to make up 10 characters have been filled with stars to the right hand side. That is what the RPAD does. This is the same with the LPAD. We may decide to put these stars to the left hand side rather than at the end. We may decide to put them at the beginning. So we may change this. And when we run this, we can see that the stars are now put on the starting side, the left hand side. Next, we have the LTRIM and RTRIM. What these two do, they remove the specified string from either the left or the right. For instance, we can say that we don't want any name to have an S at the start. So any name that will start with an S, please remove that S, that leading S. We may also want to remove the N, the last N in every first name. To do that, we use the LTRIM or RTRIM. Let's see this in action. We want to remove every S from the first name, every leading S from the first name. What this query will return, it will return the first names as they appear when they are not changed. Then the LTRIM will remove every S from the first name. Because it is an LTRIM, it will remove the leading ones from the left hand side, the leading S in every first name. That's one. When we run, we can see that names like Sarath, the S is off. Every name that will start with an S, Stefan, the leading S has been removed. That is what the LTRIM does. It removes the leading characters. This is the same with the RTRIM. The RTRIM removes the specified characters from the right hand side, from the ending side. So we may say RTRIM remove an A. So this what will happen. In every first name we shall remove the ending A character. So when you run this, you can see that name that end with an A, the last A is removed. Martha, we don't have an A. For Clara, the last A is removed. Next, we have another function called the length. It returns the number of characters in a character string. For instance, we may need to know how many characters are in each first name. For that, we use the length function. It takes only a single parameter. So with this, we are going to say we need to know the length in every first name. How many letters are in every first name? And when you run this, you can see that we have the first name here and how many characters are in each first name. Next, we have the CONCAT function. What CONCAT does, it joins two character strings. For instance, we have this column called the email. You can see it is in uppercase now. It doesn't have any extension like at gmail.com or at yahoo.com or any other normal email extension. What we can do, we can add our extension on this email. We can say for every email we can add the at gmail.com rather than having an email that is so blank like this. It doesn't make any sense. So to do that, we are going to use the CONCAT function. We are going to wrap this email in the CONCAT function, and it takes two arguments or parameters. We are going to add in a comma and then the at gmail.com. So what this function will do, it will get the email as it appears, then it joins it with at gmail.com. When you run this, you can see that email addresses are now well written with at gmail.com. They come with that extension at gmail.com. Our emails are in uppercase. Yes, we have joined it with at gmail.com, but they're in uppercase. And we may need to convert this to lowercase. And which function do we use to convert that to lowercase? You guessed it, it is the lower. But we have the CONCAT. So how are we going to do that? We have something they call nesting of functions. We can join functions within other functions. So when you come to this function, it is the one that helps us to join everything here. Now we need everything in this function to be in lowercase. So we can get the lower function and since it takes only one parameter, this will be considered as one parameter. So at the end, you can join it, you can just close it at the end. So you can just close it from here. Lower, everything in this function, it will be converted to lowercase. We can give it an alias, a column alias, such that it comes with a normal column heading as email. When you run this, you can see that our emails are now well organized and they look nice and normal. So that is how we use the CONCAT function, and we can nest, and that is how we nest functions within other functions. Next, we have another function called the replace. What the replace does, it replaces all occurrences of a specified character in a character string with something else. For instance, we may need to have an E in the first name to be changed to an A. To do that, we use the replace, and we specify what we need to convert, which is the first name. Then we have an E. Any E in the first name, please replace it with an A. So these are the three parameters. We have the first name, then an E. Any E that appears in the first name will be replaced with an A. You can give it a column alias to have a normal column heading. As when we run this, you can see that whatever the name Peter was, it has been replaced with an A. Oliver, we have an A. Those are some of the character strings we have, the most common ones, but we also have what they call the number functions.